My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired. Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glow Cloud team.
Welcome, everyone. Hi, my name is Michael Gibbs. I'm joined here with Alonzo Coleman, and today we're here to help you build your technology career. Maybe your goal is to become a cloud architect, or an AWS solutions architect, or an Azure solutions architect. Maybe you desire to become a network architect, or an AI architect, or an enterprise architect. Well, we're here to guide you through your journey to get your best technology career. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers, and I've been in this IT architecture world now, for over 25 years. Let me tell you, it's been the best ride you can possibly imagine. One of the best jobs you can ever think of. I love it. I've also spent more than 2 decades helping people just like you get your first tech job, get promoted in tech, negotiate a raise with your hiring manager. And it's one of my favorite things to do when one of my students gets hired. And at this point, I've spent more than 2 decades helping people get hired. And I have graduates working at Apple and Amazon and Cisco and IBM and Accenture and Deloitte and KPMG and Capgemini and Microsoft and Google, JP Morgan Chase, Barclays Bank, Caliant, LeaseWeb, you name it. If there's a prestigious organization, one of my students is working there. IBM, Palo Alto, everywhere, if there's someone good. And I really want to help you. Now, why do I come online with Alonzo a few times per week? We do it because I remember when I was starting my technology career, how people gave me all this advice. Do this certification, study this thing, and you know what? It was all wrong. And it was all wrong because the people giving me advice were other people that I went to school with. They were in the same tech school as me. They were doing the same certifications as me, and they were basically saying, learn this, learn this, learn this. The reality was almost all of them spent a long time, and many never made it to their goals. I found some people that had given me great guidance early in my career. They were some executives in IT, and they said, these are the people I can't hire no matter what I do. And if people have these skills, I will hire them regardless of where they come from because I need them so critically. I did that, was hired. First role was a senior role, was a lead architect within 6 months. And you can too. Not everybody, will become a lead architect in 6 months, but the point is any of you can get your first tech job. Any of you can get promoted, and any of you can have a better life. As long as you know what to learn, when to learn it, and how to learn it. So we kind of keep these things in the back of your mind for what you do. I'm going to announce some free things that we have for you, and then please bring us your questions so Alonzo and I can help you build your career. We have Alonzo here. Alonzo is a great cloud architect. He's done a nice job on the cloud. He really loved it. I begged him to come back because he's so good at helping me get people their jobs. He's got about 30 years in marketing as well. You got questions on branding, building your career. He's the person to actually ask for. And I got to tell you, if you've got the right brand, people will come to you. You don't need to look for it. And that's why I have marketing experts on my team. 99% of my students will never apply for a job. They just have people reach out to them and they will get hired through that process. So bring us your questions. Before we begin, I want to let you know that in about 4 weeks, we're going to do a free AWS Solutions Architect Associate Bootcamp. It'll cover the entire AWS Solution Architect exam. It will also have some enhanced things on information security because you need it. It will have some things on networking because you need them. And I'll have some extra AI stuff on there because we train AI architects and we love AI. So all that is completely free. Join us at the end of the month. I also want to tell you that we have a document that will explain how to get your first cloud architect job. So keep thinking. So your first cloud architect job, and it will tell you everything you need to learn, every last one of the skills that you possibly need, and it's completely free for you. And join us on Thursday on our Get Your First How to Become an AI Architect. And guess what? It'll be me. It'll be my good friend David Lithicum, who is an expert in AI with over 30-some years of experience in artificial intelligence. And guess what? He will be there too. He's the architect of our AI architecture program. So join us on Thursday. It's completely free. Alonzo, you want to say a few words while we're waiting for questions to come in? And then after that, we will help people get their jobs or do whatever they need to do in life.
Also, yeah, thanks. Well, with that amazing intro, man, I am so honored to be here and just definitely talking with everyone about how to get and realize your cloud architecture goals. This is it. This is the resource that you need. I wish I had this getting into the cloud space. And I'm glad to just take advantage of it and be able to pass along what I've already learned. So please bring your questions in. We're happy to help.
And guess what? We have 50% off for the rest of the month, which is only a few days left. And that means 50% off our elite programs, our AI architect program, our enterprise architect program, our cloud architect program, our interview training programs, and anything we can to help you boost your career. So Tyrell, let's bring in some questions.
What's our first question? To and use. Any advice you would offer to someone with no technical background who wants to become a cloud architect, Mike?
Yes, to and Hughes, it's all about having the right skills. So I'll give you some examples. Let me tell you what we do, and I'll give you some examples of people who we've trained who had no background, and their first tech job was a cloud architect, just like you. Jennifer Ema, for example, was a mental health tech, and we got her first job at JP Chase as a cloud architect. Balwinder Kerr, really wonderful person. She was a stay-at-home mom before we trained her, and she got hired at Microsoft. Daniel Bosu was 20 years old, didn't even graduate high school, and he got hired by JP Chase as a cloud architect. Jeffrey West was a geologist doing geospatial imaging, not tech stuff, who got hired at Caliant as his first job. Richard Ferrara was working at a bank before he got hired as a solution architect after our training. Arun was working at Home Depot before we trained him, and he got his first cloud architect job over at Telos. Coyote was a college student, first job at AWS. And I can give you examples all day, and sometimes it's fun to do that. But the point is you can do it. So the key is you have to understand what the cloud architect is, what we do. And you have to separate yourself from the silly, ridiculous job descriptions out there, which have absolutely nothing to do with cloud architecture and what we do as a cloud architect. Here is what we do to and Hughes. So if you understand what we do, then you'll understand the skills that you need. And I'll go through the skills as well. Cloud architects are not engineers. We don't code, we don't configure, we don't touch Linux, we don't touch the technology at all. We are strategic planners. So first thing you have to realize is this is not a hands-on job like an engineer. This is a strategic planner. So what goes into what we do? Here's what we do as architects. The first thing we do is we ask the client's executives, what are the goals and vision for your business? So right there. That's the first thing we do, because nobody gives us a piece of paper and say, build those. So Teal and Hughes, and of course we train all these skills in our cloud architect training program, but whether you train with us or don't, you must have, in order to be able to start with the executives of the business, you must understand how to communicate to executives. So that means executive communication skills. That means business acumen, meaning knowledge of how business operates. That's requiring a skill called CXO relevancy, or how to communicate to the executive C-suite and the things they care about. And it has to do with executive presence and being taken seriously. We include all those skills. They are skills that you have to learn whether you're with us or not. Honestly, I took about $80,000 to $100,000 of training inside of just those skills, plus my MBA. We teach them in this program, but they are critical skills. The next thing we have to do if we're going to help an organization design an architecture is as follows. We have to learn how that organization operates as a business. If they make a product, how is the product made? Where are the parts coming from? How are they assembled? How do the customers find the process? How is the product sold? These are called the business processes. So the next thing we need to do as architects is look at the old business processes, map them out, and then work with the organization's strategic teams to go design new business processes to help that business flow and the goals that that business has to operate in the future. This means business process re-engineering. So you have to know business process re-engineering, and you have to understand business processes, which goes under these business acumen skills. Of course, we teach this, but understand that's going to be critical for the job. The next thing that we need to do is examine the organization's data. How do they take their data? What's their data ingestion look like? What does their data storage look like? You know, all of that stuff. All of that stuff. So keep that in the back of your mind. So that means understanding of data, data hygiene, data pipelines, and all this stuff. And then after we evaluate the organization's data and data strategy and everything, we have to work with that organization to design a new data strategy, which means, so the next thing is we're going to have to evaluate the rest of the technology, the networking, the data center, the security, the compute, the storage, which means you have to understand what that current technology is. And then you're going to have to go create a team and lead that team into designing the solution for the new technology. Now, because it's impossible for you to know everything. So it typically takes a team of 5 to 50 people to design the architecture. So you're going to have good knowledge in how that underlying technology works, the network, the data center, the cloud, the security. This is not code. This is not coding. This is not, you'll never get it by doing a bunch of hands-on skills. You have to learn how these systems work under the hood and how to design. This is theoretical, analytical noodle work, not hands-on doing stuff. So there's that. So can you keep that in the back of your mind? So you will need to know them, and then you will design them. Next, you need to look for technologies that will fit into your architecture. After that, you're going to have to look and create a governance structure. You're going to have to manage the stakeholders involved. You're going to have to manage the vendors. So lots more stakeholder management skills, lots more vendor management skills, lots of negotiation skills. Now you will have to sell the architecture in most cases if you work pre-sale, which is half of us. And if you don't work pre-sale, you're still going to have to sell the architecture to the executives to make them adopt it. There's typically a level of negotiation. So you're going to need sales skills and as well. You're also going to need presentation skills, because whether it's the last interview of a solution architect or cloud architect interview, it's a presentation, but as an architect, you're going to be presenting every day. So what you need to do is learn these skills. And then, of course, you need to learn the underlying network and data center skills. Why? All cloud computing is renting space in someone else's network. And that's why I take people with 20 years of software development experience, and they have no idea where to begin with an architecture. Neither do the cloud engineers that have got great knowledge building it, because they know how to build versus design. So this means you're going to have knowledge in the following. Networking, things like IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, things like BGPs, things like link aggregation groups, first hop redundancy protocols, those types of things. It also means you're going to need to understand compute. Think virtual machines, think containers, think container orchestration. It means you're going to have knowledge on how to design, not how to build. I can teach anybody how to click a bunch of boxes and launch an S3 bucket. Taught a 6-year-old how to design these things, which means knowledge of how the storage area networks work and how you integrate them together. Things like block storage, object storage, file storage. Things like load balancers, proxy servers, reverse proxies. When do you use them? How do you use them? Why do you use them? The business applications that can optimize business performance. And security, and how do you design for security? Whether it's defense in depth and zero trust and demilitarized design and all these cool, fun stuff. We teach them all. So you're going to have to learn them. So why don't you do the following? Download that completely free guide on how to become a cloud architect. Learn those skills and join us on our next free webinar. We're not going to have one this week because it's going to be an AI webinar this week, but we'll have one next Thursday. Join us on these webinars and you'll learn what to do. And you get the right skills, you can get hired like any of my students do all the time.
Big Jerry, how important would you say mentorship is, Mike? I hear a lot about it, and also what to do until I'm able to find a mentor.
Big Jerry, mentorship is everything. There's two ways we can learn in life, Big Jerry. I'll tell you what the most strategic people do, and I'll tell you what most people do. Most people learn by making mistakes. They try something, it fails. They lose their time, they lose their effort, their money, and then they try again, and then they fail, and then they try again, and they get a little success, and they try again, and they fail again. And what it looks like for them in their career is like this. And I don't like that. I don't believe in hope as a management strategy. Here's what other people do, the most highly successful. They find a mentor, and the mentor says, do this, and the person's career does this. And the mentor says, do this, and the person's career does this. And they say, do this. And the next thing you realize, the person has a great career. That's what I did. So Big Jerry, to put it into context, my first job was a senior network engineer, and I never worked in tech before. And I was a lead architect, outpacing the people that had 15 and 20 years in tech within 6 months. Why? I found a mentor. It was the VP of architecture, and the VP of architecture said, this is what I want, the world's greatest architects. And I said, okay, I'm going to go learn it. So that's how important it is. So if you're part of our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, we have included mentorship in every one of our programs. We have deeper mentorship in our elite programs, but every program we have has some degree of mentorship. Our students turn something in, they get guidance, they get feedback on it. So mentorship is critical. Quite frankly, until you find a mentor, you don't even know what you're going to learn, if it's right or wrong or anywhere in between. I have people that want to learn Python to become a cloud architect, and they learn DevOps and they learn SysOps. And here's the saddest reality. At the end of a year's worth of skills development, they don't have the skills for a job as an architect at all, because we don't have anything to do with that in their life. So, but if they were an architect and they were told, don't learn this, but learn how to give a presentation. Don't learn how to build it, learn how to design it. And if you want to build it, go build it. And you can build all day long, and I promise you won't know how to design. I promise you, because I've been retraining engineers that have hands-on experience building all day long. And it takes just as long to get them hired as it does with someone with a new background. It's all about having the right skills for the right job. So mentorship is everything, Big Jerry 23. And I don't want to act like having lots of years of hands-on experience isn't valuable. It's very valuable. But if you've been an airplane mechanic your entire life fixing an airplane engine, and now you want to be an airplane pilot, you're going to have to learn how to fly the plane, because you're no longer going to be fixing the engine. Both careers are equally important, and both provide very, very good information. But I want you to think about that and put it into context, and you will be incredible. Please ask us your questions. Alonzo and I want to help you.
From Jesco, how can you find a competent recruiter online to get into an enterprise architect's internship in the United States?
Okay, Jesco, I'm going to separate the two questions. No company in their right mind would ever let you be an enterprise architect intern. Here's the reason why. At the enterprise architect level, you're dealing with the CEO of a business, which means you're going to have to get time of a person whose time is worth about $10,000 an hour or more. And if you're going to have to take 3 or 4 hours of the time, that would be $30,000 in opportunity cost just for the executive's time. And they're not going to give it to an intern. The next part of it is you're going to have to work with that organization to re-optimize their business processes. And if you don't know business process re-engineering and you don't know what you're doing, you will destroy a multi-billion-dollar business in about a week. So they're never going to let you that. Now, the next thing is they're not going to let you see the underlying systems they have without a heavy-duty non-disclosure agreement. And why would an organization take their most strategic resources, which are their enterprise architects, and literally say, here, instead of focusing on strategy for us, we're paying you $500,000 a year, go train a bunch of interns. They would never do it. So you can't get an internship in a strategy role. You can get an internship in a junior role, but not a strategy role. So we have a training program that will train you. That's how you become a really great architect. Now, how do you get a good recruiter online? Well, there's the story of, I think, what's it, the woman who has to kiss a bunch of frogs to find her prince. I forget which story it was. I think it was a Disney story. I can't remember. I was a kid at the time. But
Princess and the Frog.
Well, the Princess and the Frog, exactly. Alonzo has children, so I knew he would remember. So here's the thing that we need to think about. When you find a good recruiter, they're worth their weight in gold, diamonds, and platinum. They will pitch you to the hiring manager. They'll pre-bias the hiring manager to like you. They'll negotiate your salary for you. They'll do all kinds of things. They'll guide your resume. It is the greatest thing you have. How do you find a competent one? Well, one of the ways is if you create really good content on LinkedIn and you leverage LinkedIn really good, you're going to find who's good and who's not. And a really good recruiter will reach out to you. And here's the mark of a good recruiter. And I can tell you, Christina Marino at IT Excel in New York is one of the best I've ever met. You can see her a lot of times on our channel. If Christina Marino were to reach out to me as a recruiter, let's say she didn't know me, and she said, I saw your post, I'd like to talk. Are you interested in a job? I would say, Christina, let's talk. What's your phone number? And let's speak. If the person says, let me see your resume before I'm willing to speak to you, throw them in the trash. Why? You need to speak to the recruiter. You need to assess the recruiter. You need to know what their sales skills are, right? They're going to be selling you. You need to interview them about their connections. So when you find a recruiter that's willing to speak to you, ask them. Ask them what their local hiring managers are looking for. If it sounds like one of these silly cut and paste job descriptions, guess what? It's not a real recruiter. It's somebody that just cuts and pastes stuff in there and can't help you find a job. If you ask the recruiter, I see there's a job on this. I've seen the job description, but what does the employer really want? And they say, well, they got this list of stuff, but here's what the employer wants. They want someone with very good knowledge of networking, very good knowledge of security, very good ability to understand business and adapt to things, strong presentation skills and strong leadership skills. It's an architect job. You can say, all right, sounds like a real architect job. If they say, I'm looking for a cloud architect and the job description includes Bash shell scripting, Windows PowerShell scripting, Python scripting, hands-on experience with APIs, it's not an architect job, it's an engineering job. And if you ask that recruiter and they don't know, don't waste your time with them because they can't get you hired because they don't know the careers and they don't know how to sell you. It'd be real easy, and Alonzo's turning in like Casper the Ghost with his blue and background. Maybe your background, if we get rid of it, might do a little better if it works, Alonzo, because it looks like we're having some issues in the background. But I mean, things like that are going on. But if you call a recruiter and they understand their client and they understand their client's needs and they understand their client's desires and wants and things like that, they will be able to help you. So they've got to be connected. They've got to be articulate. They have to be knowledgeable. They have to have good sales skills. They have that. They will totally be able to help you. Great question, Jessica. Please feel free to ask more. Amara, how could you become a cloud security architect? Well, Amara, that's a great career. Totally love the career. I've trained many cloud architects, and I've trained many cloud security architects. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've trained a tremendous number of people working at cloud security architects in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. So we could train you if you desire in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. So here's what you have to understand. You first have to have architect skills. So whether you train with us or you train somewhere else, I need you to get architect skills. What are architect skills? You have to know how to sell. Because if you design a security architecture and you can't sell it, it'll go nowhere. So they're going to be assessing your skills and skills. And you can't function as an architect without sales skills. You must have leadership skills. So as the African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Your ability to get anything done as a security architect is going to be based on you building a team. You will need penetration testers. You will need security engineers. You will need other architects from other fields. Like in order to do cloud security, you might need some network security people because there's going to be other things. You're going to have to build a team and lead that team for every architecture. You're going to be giving presentations as a security architect every single day. You must have good presentation skills. You must have good business knowledge because you can't do the work as an architect. Because in security, for example, we have to quantify the organization's security risk. We have to do risk assessments and come up with risk mitigation plans. Do we transfer the risk, manage the risk, for example? So you're going to have to understand all of that. And I'll get to everything to answer your question, including certifications, etc. So there's that. So understand those are going to be some critical business skills for the security architect. Then you need to understand about would you craft a security policy? the overarching framework that the organization will use. You will need to have good knowledge and understanding of security frameworks. You will need to know how to use the other types of security frameworks that are not exactly like the traditional NIST framework or the COBIT framework, for example. Do you build a system based upon defense in depth, which is like peeling back an onion where each layer has another layer of protection? You want to use those. Do you use zero trust? Yeah, but zero trust by itself isn't going to be good enough either. So when would you use, say, zero trust, and when would you combine that with defense in depth? You'll need to understand how to secure remote access, how to secure applications, how to secure demilitarized zones, for example. You'll need to determine end-to-end encryption strategies, for example, of things that you'll need to do. So end-to-end encryption strategies, whether it be networking encryption, storage encryption, encryption in flight with things like TLS type security. So there'll be that. You will need to know how to secure endpoints, for example, and endpoint protection. You will need to understand that. You will need to have a good understanding of identity and access management, even though much of that goes to the IAM architect versus the cloud security architect. Of course, you will also need to know cloud computing, because you're going to have to know how to secure the systems. And you're going to have to know what your enterprise security things are going to be. For example, most organizations are not going to secure their systems with AWS WAF, AWS Shield, and a security group and a network access control list in the security center. Small businesses probably would, but an enterprise might be going to Palo Alto or Fortinet or Checkpoint for security appliances. They're not going to probably use an open VPN remote access solution. They're going to be using more of an IPsec solution and more of a traditional, Cisco kind of remote access solution or something else like Palo Alto. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And then you have to learn how to create the security, design the security, and put the pieces and parts together. I got to tell you, it is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful job. Now, let's talk about certifications. Don't waste your time with anything CompTIA. Don't do any A+, Net+, Security+. They don't belong on an architect's resume. They are wonderful for certifications. I have nothing against them, but they are there more for help desk, not for architect work. So I would recommend getting a CISSP, potentially a CISM with it. And, on top of something like that, that's kind of maybe a cloud provider's professional certification, like an Azure Solutions Architect Expert or an AWS Solutions Architect Professional. Because I'm going to make it very clear to you, you will not learn how to be an architect in any of these training programs, but they will serve as a framework for studying. For example, I have a CISSP course that I teach to my internal students, and it's 1,700 slides long. I also have an AWS Advanced Security, but that's a 400 slide PowerPoint deck as opposed to a 1,600 slide deck. So think about that in the back of your mind. So those 1,600 slides in the CISSP and the CISSP certification, they scratch the surface. They might talk about data loss prevention in there for 2 hours, but you might need to know 50 hours of data loss prevention. In the CISSP, they talk a little bit about, calculating security risks. You might need a little more. So kind of think about this in the back of your mind. So that's how you do it. You go get the training for security. You get the certifications to do the following. They create a beautiful stamp on your resume. They make your resume look good. And that way, when a hiring manager picks up your resume, they say, oh, this is good. Let me talk to them, bring them in for an interview. Now, they won't teach you these certifications enough to do their job. So you get those certifications for the interview. You get the skills to do their job. You get some good, strong interview training. So when it's an interview for a job that you've never done before and you have no experience, you know how to interview so well that you look irresistible to the hiring manager. And then they hire you. That's what you do. And I've got lots and lots and lots of experience doing so. Alonzo, welcome back. So Alonzo is a good reason why we have redundancy. He's got multiple sets of internet service providers, as does everybody else at Go Cloud Careers.
Dom, good afternoon, Mike and Alonzo. Would you recommend aspiring cloud architects to still apply for companies that list developing/scripting experience as a requirement?
Dom, right? Generally speaking, I don't recommend applying for companies in the first place. I recommend learning how to have companies reach out to you. So it all depends on your background. Dom, if I were to apply for a job, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't waste my time with it. But if I was going to apply for a job, I've got 25 years of architecture experience. Pretty much I'll make it through every single recruiter that likes to basically say, denied, denied, denied. It's almost like the company's internal recruiters get fun and pleasure out of the red stamp that says, auto reject, auto reject, auto reject. So mine will go through because I've got the perfect resume. It would. Then I'm going to go to the HR person. I'm going to deal with all that nonsense and go through the rigmarole, fill out applications. Instead, at my level, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to call somebody like Korn Ferry International, who deals with the executive architects, and say, it's Mike Gibbs. I'm looking for a new role. And they'll say, Mike, let me go call people. They'll call the Cisco's and their business solutions groups. They'll call Microsoft and their business solutions group. They'll call Google and their business solutions group and say, let's say Alonzo is an executive vice president at one of these companies. The recruiter is going to say, hi, Alonzo. And they're, hey, how are you doing? And he's going to say, I've got this guy you need to talk to. It's Mike Gibbs. And Alonzo's going to say, why do I need to talk to Mike Gibbs? And he's going to say, well, Alonzo, Mike's been a principal architect for over 25 years. He's closed $1 billion plus architecture deals by himself. He's sold them, he's led teams of 50 architects. He's consulted to the world's largest internet service providers, the world's largest bank, and various countries in designing certain systems. I think you should talk to him. I talked to Alonzo. Alonzo says, yeah, Mike, I'm going to hire you. Of course, he's going to send me to 15 other interviews internally because that's just normal. And I'll give a presentation. Then Alonzo's going to say, Mike, now that we're going to hire you, I need you to fill out an application. I'll go fill out that application. And Alonzo will tell the people what he wants to pay me. I'll get the offer. I'll start working. Who knows? A year from now, I'm going to be promoted to VP or EVP or SVP. And the next thing I realize, I get an auto rejection from HR. That's typically what I do. I don't typically apply for jobs because of that. And because I know that I can get much better jobs by not using them. Now, if I was brand new or I was mid-tier, if I was desperate, I'd probably fill out, 100 or 200 applications manually the hard way, talk to 5 different recruiters in different parts of the world, and they do that. But we have to remember, Dom, right? Every job description out there is usually wrong. So, Dom, I have never had more than 10% of the skills in a job description. Not once. You want to know what's worse? Or better, I should say, I've never been on an interview where I didn't either get hired or get a better job than the one I interviewed for. But I've never had more than 10% of the skills. I knew what the right skills were because I spoke to industry experts. Here's how I make a job description. Let's say I want to hire a cloud architect. I've got my job description. But if I didn't, and the only reason I do is because I have to give people the real job description every single day of the week, I would go out there, I would go to Indeed, ZipRecruiter, or Dice, and I would type cloud architect, and I'd look for something that looks 15 pages long. Why? Because I can send it to HR, and they're not going to say you weren't comprehensive. So I'm going to get some stupid job description, and it's going to cut it and paste it into Microsoft Word. It's going to be 10 pages long, and I'm going to say, what? It doesn't include what I need. So I'm going to type what I need. I'm going to send it to HR, and poof, now you've got a job description that's got scripting and DevOps and a whole million things that are totally unrelated. So I think the bigger question is, what do they really want? So, Dom, when Marino's placed me in numerous jobs, one time she sent me a job description. It had Linux on it. It had Bash shell scripting. It had something called expect TCL scripting on it. I mean, there were syslog servers and TFTP servers and all this other icky stuff. And they wanted knowledge of network management like HP OpenView and all these other things. And when she sent me that job description, I said, Christina, what do they really want? You're the recruiter. You sent this thing to me. And she says, Mike, I spoke to the CIO. They need someone that can design 5 nines available systems. They're having a whole lot of outages. They said they need a BGP expert and an OSPF expert and a switching and routing expert. I said, okay, send the resume in. Poof, I was hired. So that's the key. You have to get intel. If you look at a job description and it's got all this icky stuff in there that has nothing to do with what we know, what we would do as an architect, and I consider anything where you got to code or configure icky. It's not that it's bad. There are people that love it, but I'd prefer to take a client to dinner and have a discussion than get hands-on in coding. I just don't want to code. I don't like to code. That's why I became an architect. I love being an architect, but that's there. So if I saw that, I'd ask. Now, there's nothing wrong with you when you see a job description that's silly to reaching out to other people and saying, hey, you work at this company as an architect. What do you do? And when they tell you, look, I take clients to dinner, I buy them drinks, I give presentations. What about scripting? I don't do that. Then you know it's a real architect job. But if it's listed scripting, it's an engineering job. And if you want to be an engineer, Dom, right, that's great. There's lots of wonderful engineers. And if we don't have engineers, nothing got built. But that's how you're going to know the difference. And then I would determine whether I would apply after I had the intel and the reconnaissance to tell me what it is or what it isn't. If you've got some questions, please ask him so Alonzo and I can help you.
Back to Dom. Also, how do cloud architects assess risk, Mike? Is there a framework that you align with, and do you further analyze different qualifications or qualification analysis?
So, Dom, how do I assess risks? I have to talk to the client. I've got to gain a lot of information. For example, every organization is going to face different risks and different threats. The highest value targets in the world right now are AWS, Azure, and Google. Why? You hack into AWS, pretty much you can break into pretty much anybody's systems in the world. Same thing for Azure. How much security do you think they put into their systems? A whole lot. So there's that. So how do we analyze risks? We talk to the client's executive team. What are your assets? It could be intellectual property, could be plant, could be equipment. And then we need to analyze. Have you ever been hacked before? Yes. Okay, that's something that's going to give you some information. No, I haven't. So that'll give you some information which is going on. When you walk around the organization, what do you see? You try to talk to the receptionist. They give you information that they shouldn't give you. It's part of your risk assessment. If you bring in a penetration tester and ask them to ethically break into the systems, you will find violations that are risks. If I bring in some vulnerability management people in there and they start doing scans, will that give me an information on an organization's risk? Yeah, so we're going to have to do a lot. Now, we're going to be working with the organization's executives for some things that you need to know. That's the easy piece. So, but, we're going to have to get some industry calculations to calculate in risks. We're going to have to understand, a lot of information. So it's going to take a lot of questions to ask. Is there a framework that I align with? Well, frameworks are kind of personal. When I worked at Cisco, we had a framework that we designed our architectures with. It was called SONA, or Service-Oriented Network Architectures. It was a way to align the systems with all the things that needed to be run on the systems in the context of how to help a business. I liked it. Personally loved it. TOGAF is a very good framework. I tend to use the TOGAF framework. I teach according to the TOGAF framework, and here's why I use the TOGAF framework. Much anybody who's anybody in the world uses TOGAF as a methodology. Your big companies, your big consulting firms, your big architecture firms. So I tend to use TOGAF, but various consulting firms also have their own. Another good framework that was out there was the Zachman framework for enterprise architecture. Alternatively, if you're dealing with a government entity, you might be dealing with things like FIF, which are other frameworks that the US government uses. So I don't have a particular alignment to a framework because to me, they all get you to the same thing. As long as I identify the key stakeholders, I identify the business vision, I optimize the business processes, and I design a technology strategy to optimize the business and its processes, I'm going to help them. So it really doesn't matter. So do I further analyze via quantification and qualification? We analyze quantitative risks, we quantitate quantitative risks and qualitative risks. A quantitative risk is, I've got an intellectual property, that intellectual property is stolen. What's the risk to the organization? And you typically calculate it by, let's say your intellectual property is worth $1 billion, and there's a 5% risk of it being compromised this year or lost this year, which would give you 0.05 times 1 billion, which would give you about $50 million of risk. I did the math in my head, so hopefully it's correct. So there's that, but there's also qualitative risk. Every time Azure, gets hacked into and loses information, what does that do for their brand for security? Or better yet, we have one cloud provider and has an outage and they give a fuzzy, fluffy answer. Like, I don't know, we had a power failure in a data center. It took the whole globe down, or we had an impaired network. Another organization says we had a hacking event. Who do you trust more? So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. These are also kind of things that we can think about and what they do and how they do it and why they work. So brand damage is brand damage could be quantitative or qualitative based upon what's the value of the brand and whether you base it on quantitative things. But customer sentiment, customer feedback, these are the types of things that would be more on the qualitative side. And brand damage could be qualitative or quantitative depending upon how it's calculated. Great question, Dom. If you've got more, I'd be happy to do it. Prasad, how can anyone in QA testing get relevant hands-on experience to be a cloud architect? Okay, Prasad, the first thing we need to understand, hands-on experience for the architect has nothing to do with the hands-on experience of an engineer. Prasad, I take people that have been cloud engineers for 10 years and completely need to start them from scratch to train them to be a cloud architect. I have software developers with 20 years experience and I completely retrain them to be a cloud architect. It's not that the experience isn't relevant. It's that the job is different. So I will give you an example. I've got someone that's been configuring firewalls and IDS, IPS systems all day long. They're an expert at going into Cisco firewalls. They're an expert at going into Palo Alto firewalls and checkpoint firewalls and Fortinet firewalls. They're the configuration guru. They've got 20 years of hardware experience. And now, Prasad, I say, could you design my security policy? And they don't know where to begin. Or I say, well, we have a 7% weighted average cost of capital. How would you weigh that information to determine whether to build a private cloud or a public cloud? And they don't know where to begin. How would you design a secure demilitarized zone for an organization with 200,000 remote access employees? And they don't know where to begin because learning how to build and building hands-on experience has absolutely zero with system design experience. And Prasad, this is where 90% of the organization people go wrong. They get hands-on experience in how-to stuff, when the architect's job is not how-to, it is how to plan. Planning versus implementation. So now the right hands-on experience, how do you get it? Well, it all involves in looking at what we do. Prasad, if you start giving presentations, you are getting real cloud architect hands-on experience. Presentations are one of the biggest things we do as architects, and you're getting hands-on experience. Facilitating meeting is something we do. So if you start facilitating meetings, that is getting relevant hands-on experience. Designing a technology architecture to solve a certain business problem is hands-on architect experience. So go design an architecture, which means interview businesses, learn about the business problems, learn about their business processes, learn about the business strategy, evaluate their current technology, and create an architecture to support their future business goals and their future business processes. That's architecture experience. Architects manage stakeholders because in an organization, we're going to have various business units. So try and get some experience managing large teams and managing the stakeholders of an organization. That is valid hands-on experience. Now, of course, in our Cloud Architecture Development Program, we teach all these things and we do it. Architects respond to requests for information, requests for quotes, which means pricing, requests for proposals. So practice doing some RFIs, RFPs, RFQs. Practice designing secure architectures, practice designing high availability architectures, but make sure your practice is on designing systems that you need to work. Architects sell. So learn to sell. I don't care whether you're selling hamburgers. I don't care whether you're selling cars. I mean, to some degree I do, but learn to sell. Because as architects, we have to sell our solutions to the clients. Now you're going to have to lead people, Prasad, so get some leadership experience. Find a way to manage 5 to 50 people in a project, because that's what we do as architects. And find a way to create strategic plans. You do that, you will have the hands-on experience of what we do. We don't code, we don't configure. That is somebody else's job. And that's where people go wrong. And let me talk to you about the hands-on experience, because you have to have the experience and the skills that you need. And I want to talk about what happens when someone goes on an interview and they say, come back when you have more experience. Because this is really good information. So employers are no longer allowed to give you honest feedback on a job interview. You go on a job interview, they give you some kind of feedback. Somebody takes that feedback, they go to their lawyers and they sue the company. So employers are very limited in what they're allowed to say on a job interview, which means they're being encouraged to lie to you and say one of a few answers. If I go interview someone to be a network architect and I ask them some competency questions to determine what their skills are, and they can't answer them, I would have two choices, Prasad. I could say, go home, you don't have the skills for the job. That no longer works. I can tell someone, come back when you have more experience. And doesn't it sound like a nice way to basically tell somebody, no, I can't hire you? So a lot of people go on interviews, they keep being told this, and they go back and they fix the wrong problem. So you have to have the right skills. And hands-on experience has to be hands-on in your job. For example, if you're going to fly an airplane, hands-on experience is flying the plane, not fixing the engine, not walking up and down the aisles and putting people's seatbelts on or handing out drinks like a flight attendant would. So make sure if you get experience, it's doing it all the things. Now, my students all the time, they design architectures, they present it back to us, they sell it. And because I have students with a cloud architect program, they actually do architecture stuff. So I hope I answered your question, and please answer more. I really want to help you get to your goals. Jesco. Well, this is not a question, but I really want to thank you for all the free content you post on. Thank you so much. It's by far the best and highest quality content regarding enterprise architecture on YouTube. Thank you, Jesco. I've been an enterprise architect now for over 25 years, and I love the job. I really love it. And, you know, with more than 70% of architectures failing to provide any business value, you know, it's one of the things that I want to do is teach enterprise architecture, because that is the solution, and I love it. So thank you so much, Jesco. Please, Jesco, feel free to ask more questions, provide information, anything you want. I want to make sure, and anybody for that matter, please ask your questions. Malik, how can you build skills on top of your AWS SAA CO3 certification? So Malik, the skills for every job are completely different. The skills you need to be a physician are different than what you need to be a lawyer, which is different than what you need to be an accountant. So Malik, I want to ask you, what job do you desire? Because the cloud architect skills has nothing to do with the cloud administrator skills, and it has also has nothing to do with the DevOps engineer skills, which has nothing to do with the developer skills, which has nothing to do with the big data architect skills. They're all different. So Malik, please tell me which job you would like, and then I can tell you what are the correct skills that you need to build. But the biggest problem we have in technology when it comes to hiring is the skills mismatch. People want to be an architect and they study engineering. People want to be a software developer and they study architecture. And in the end, here's what employers care about when we hire someone. Because I've asked thousands of employers over the years, and hiring managers and tech recruiters and executives. Employers want someone that can do the job. So if I'm hiring an architect to design, present, and sell a solution, and you're an excellent software engineer, but you can't design it, present it, and sell it, I can't hire you. So I need the skills in the job you want. The next thing employers care about is your communication skills. After that, they care about your energy, your enthusiasm, your passion. They care about your emotional intelligence, your willingness to go above and beyond. You're being a team player. That's what all employers care about for pretty much all jobs. So, but the competency piece or the skills for that job you must have. So, generally speaking, you're going to need good training to get any really great job. And, you know, it brings you into the thought of which careers do you need training for and which careers can you learn on your own. A cloud admin job, you can learn that on your own. You pass a couple of certifications, you learn a little Linux, you learn a little Python, you learn a little Terraform, you learn a little Kubernetes, you get a bunch of hands-on labs, and poof, you've got the skills to be a cloud admin, because a cloud admin is really a technician that just does technician work. Now you want to be an architect. You're going to have to design a system that's going to improve an organization's business performance. That's not a learn-on-the-job thing. There's a reason a cloud architect, enterprise architect, AI architect, security architect earn $200,000 to $1 million a year. Because it's assumed you've got some knowledge and the right skills when you get one of these jobs. Kind of like an airplane pilot. Would you want to get on an airplane if somebody didn't really know how to fly the plane? They just had a certification? I hope not. Would you want a surgeon operating on you that was a dog walker? And I love dog walkers because I love dogs, and I can't really walk with my foot after a bad injury. So dog walkers are great, but you get the concept. You have to have the right skills. So please tell me the job you want, Malik, and then I can tell you what are the right skills that you should get on top of your certification. Please feel free to ask us your questions. By the way, some free things. Got a free AWS bootcamp we're going to be doing in about a month from now. Sign up now. It'll be real fun. We've done plenty, but we've almost tripled the content for this one. We have extra security content, extra networking content, extra AI content, and it's going to be free, so do it. We also on Thursday have a How to Get Your First AI Architect Job webinar. It'll be me and David Lithicum. We'll go over the role. It's going to be a fun thing to talk about. Join us. It'll be on Zoom. You can ask us questions. We can interview, assess you, anything you want to help you in your career. And while we're at it, please download the completely free guide on how to get your first cloud architect job. And as a bonus for today, guess what? We've got our 50% off sale off of all training programs to celebrate the Memorial Day holiday, to celebrate those who have given everything and the families of those who have. So please take advantage of it. Tyrone, behind the scenes, give me the next question. Do I have experience training enterprise architects in the EU? Absolutely. How did they complete the live classes when your live classes start at midnight? So Jessica, actually, let's be fair, why we picked the time of the classes we have. So in our enterprise architect class, that we have 3 classes per week plus 2 additional classes. One of the classes is Tuesday at 10 a.m. Why did we pick 10 a.m. for our class? Because a good 30% of our clients are in the EU. And if we picked 10 a.m., that makes it 3 p.m. in the UK, 4 p.m. in, say, Spain and France, 5 p.m. in my home in Greece, etc. It also works well across the African time zones, where we have a lot of really incredible, wonderful people and students in Africa. I actually hired one of them that's on this call. His name is Tyrone. He's behind the scenes. He's an amazing cloud architect, but he also helps us and our students. He's in our program. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. That's why we pick these. So the 1 day a week, very easy for you to do. Simple. The next one is Thursday. Now that one is a little rough. Our Thursday class is from 4 to 6 p.m. So that's 9 to 11 p.m. UK time. Could be a little later depending upon where you're at in Europe. And the Friday class is 1 p.m., which happens to be at 6 p.m. where people in England are already in the pub, 7 p.m. Central European time, 8 p.m. at my home in Greece. So again, that totally works. We have another enterprise architect class, which we have, I think it's at 2 p.m. once per month. And guess what? That's 7 p.m. in Europe, or in England, 8 p.m. in Central Europe, 9 p.m. in Greece. So again, that works for Europeans. And then we have one class, which honestly, it's a little uncomfortable. It is 6:30, so that could be at midnight, depending upon where you're at, and goes on for 2 hours. And if you can't attend that class, no big deal, we record it. And I find that some people attend part of classes or all of the classes, but the answer is yes, we've got lots of people hired in the EU. In fact, I'm thinking of one of my students, Ian, and I had trained him, and he's been promoted multiple times in the last 2 years over there in Europe, and he's doing really well. So that's why we did it. Sadly, Jusco, there's no time that really is convenient for everybody, because the 6 p.m. works, the evening ones work for the people in Australia. The daytime ones are kind of rough. We just do the best we can with the time we have. Lots of successful people in Europe. We also had lots of successful people in India. It's a little harder in India, but they manage. Lots of successful people in Australia and New Zealand and other places as well. Good question. LinkedIn user, as a cloud architect, what is the best way to engage with business executives and stakeholders to have their buy-in? Well, it's going to take a lot. First, you got to get to know the executives, right? Which means professional meetings with them. It means lunches. It means dinners. It means drinks. It can possibly mean playing golf with them or taking them to a Super Bowl where your company, say, bought box seats, or a football game if you're in Europe or something to that effect. So there's that. But then it's about, before you even get to the executives, because you can't waste their time because their time is very valuable, learning about their business, learning as much as you can find. For example, if you look at an organization's balance sheet and financial statement, that'll give you some information. Industry analysts will give you some information. Potentially other people in your organization have already worked with that client in the past, and they have some insight into what that client needs. So it's going to take a little bit of recon long before you meet with the client. And before you get to the client's executives, a lot of times you're going to meet with some other people in other departments. Ask them to prep you. What are the executive's goals? What have you heard? What is the executive like? What does the executive dislike? Because you can, if you know people better, you can create opportunities to create that connection. Meet me here, join me here, and all these other things. Constantly things like that. So that's one of the ways. But you also have to know the business. You have to know what they care about. And you should have something to offer them. Relationships are built on needs. So then, that's how you get the business executives. Now, how about the stakeholders? Well, you got to do the same thing for them. And then you have to put yourself in the position of the stakeholder, because, you know, an organization is going to have all these disparate entities, okay? And, you know, the security people are cared about security, right? That's their goal. But if the security people go a little cuckoo and overly secure something, you know, somebody else is part of in an operations department may have to do crazy workarounds that makes the business inefficient. So at the same time, the security people are going to put something in that's going to change the applications people and make their lives more miserable. So you got to have some really good negotiation skills. It's going to be a lot of meetings. You're going to have to facilitate a lot of meetings. You're going to have to create a lot of collateral documentation. You're going to have to show value in certain things, which maybe means financial calculations, and a whole lot of snoozing. LinkedIn user, I hope you've kind of figured out by the time I said this that the full-time job is managing people, leading people, asking questions, delivering presentations, and that's why nobody lets us touch the technology, because we have so much of that stuff to do. If we don't get the stakeholder buy-in, the architecture will fail. Like 70% of all architectures, they fail to provide any business benefit, which means companies are spending millions and billions of dollars to get nothing for it. That hurts the business, because that millions or billions of dollars could be placed on doing something else in order to help an organization get to there. Hope I answered your question. Please ask more. As an AB architect. So I don't know what you mean by AB architect. What tools or frameworks do you use to handle risk analysis? So, and then it says personally identifiable information, and I hope that's what you mean by PII, but it could be some other things, because that could be 5 different things. So I don't exactly know what you mean, and I don't want to make assumptions. Risk analysis. Risk analysis is very simple. You have to quantify every risk. And what does that mean? So you've got to look at each and everything, and you got to look at the value of the asset, the potential risk that it can occur, the likelihood of it occurring, and you've got to do that for everything an organization actually has for every asset. It's very similar to the expected value of an opportunity that you would use in finance, but it's slightly different, but it's pretty much the same thing. So you use math. In the old days, we used HP 10 financial calculators. Now, typically, we use Excel. So it's going to be a manual process. Now, you can calculate the value of the asset because the organization is potentially going to know it, or it's been quantified already because they're a publicly traded company, and somewhere along the line, somebody quantified the asset. It may have been quantified in some form of an accounting audit or something else, but you're going to have to know the value of the asset. Then risks. Whoa, that's where it gets tricky. Do you run some advanced statistical calculations or have somebody on your team, a statistician, do it? More likely. If it's going to be complicated enough, your company is going to have statisticians involved to help calculate these risks for you and potentially actuaries as well. But if it's going to be small, because you're only trying to sell a couple $1 million in firewall, which is kind of nothing, you'll be able to calculate these risks yourself. Now, the expected frequency of an attack, which is going to be another input in your calculation, this is going to get a little icky. The reason it's going to get a little icky is you're going to have to find it. And that may mean hiring consulting firms that have calculated risks for similar businesses in the past, who can then tailor that after running an evaluation of this organization. So that's kind of how you handle risk analysis. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to help, and I really do want to help. I really do. I'm happy to answer any questions. I can tell you that we've got a generative AI webinar on Thursday, and love to have you attend. David Lithicum and I will talk about the AI architect role, the things we do, the AI skills that you need to have. If you're looking for your first cloud architect job, we have a webinar next Thursday, not this one that we'll run. You can sign up for that as well. And we also have a document in the meantime on how to get your first cloud architect job. And everything you need to do, building your brand, all those skills you learn. And of course, whenever we do a webinar, it is on Zoom. So you have the opportunity to ask any questions you desire. So do you have any questions for me? I see there's a bunch of you that are still here on the stream. And if you've got questions, I'd love to help it. And I encourage you to do so, because whenever we finish these, it's like people are shy or afraid to talk. We typically get 30 to 50 people reaching out to asking email questions, and we say, join us on the next one of these. So if you've got a question, please ask us. We really do want to help. Otherwise, if there's no questions, I am going to go back to creating content for my students. And of course, we have a 50% off site-wide sale for Memorial Day. Okay, well, if there are no other questions and we came on a day, normally we do it on Wednesday, normally come on Wednesday. Okay, I see there's a question coming in on business architect. Kwaku, do I have experience as a business architect? Absolutely. It was one of the best architecture jobs I ever had. So yes, I definitely worked as a business architect, and it was one of the greatest. Now, when you typically find a strategy consultant, they're a business architect. A CEO is a business architect. A chief operating officer is a business architect. In fact, Kwaku, every job that, for the most part, that pays over $250,000 a year is an architect job. So why is that? So in the end of the day, we typically have two kinds of workers or employees in the system. We have the designers and the planners, and we have the doers. So the CEO creates the vision for the organization. They set the strategy for the organization. They do, and that's what an architect does. The chief information officer, they help create a strategy to improve that organization's business performance with technology. That's an architect job. A lawyer is an architect. You go to the lawyer and you tell that lawyer about your goals. They create contracts to protect you for those goals. They create a strategy. They've got a legal defense. They evaluate the available evidence. They evaluate the law. They create a strategy. It's an architect job. A physician is an architect job. And that's how I learned architecture when I learned internal medicine when I was much younger. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So think about that. So all these jobs are architect, but yes, I've got a lot of experience as a business architect, and I really think that some of the best training that's actually out there is going in there, doing management and strategy consulting clients for a long kind of people. It's definitely there. So yeah, wonderful training. You really want to join this program, but none of the times work for you, the times of the live session classes with your meeting at work. Well, LinkedIn user, we have two options. We record 100% of all classes, 100% of them. So you could actually take the non-live program we have, which is the same training program, but you don't get to participate in live classes. And guess what? If you can't attend the live classes, it's also half price. Tyrone, could you pop a link to that? I think it's on LinkedIn, to the actual non-live version of our training program. Now, LinkedIn user, I'm going to tell you that 80% of our students do work full-time in both the live and the non-live programs. And typically what happens is, there's usually one class that you can attend per week, or there's 30 to 60 minutes of a class that you could potentially attend per week. And as soon as that time occurs, people come in, they pop in, they ask questions for 30 minutes, or they ask a question, they get their question answered, and they leave. So LinkedIn user, in the live program, there's actually 4 to 5 contacts with our staff per week. We run 3 live classes. And in between those live classes, we have office hours where my team will answer questions about the course. You also have access to your instructors via Slack to be able to reach out to them. And there's a very large community. Plus, every project you do, if you're in the live program or the non-live program that matters, you'll turn in and you'll get feedback on things. So we'll be in contact with you whether you're in class or not. I really prefer you to be in class, because if you're in the class, I could see you present an architecture to me. But we've had many students become highly successful by attending either program. And that's why we created the live program. For either people the non-live program, for people that couldn't attend our classes, or for people that couldn't afford our training because they're like me and they come from the developing world. And like I'm from Greece, and things were financially pretty rough for us in Greece. So I created a non-live version for people that just couldn't afford our live training. So I think that would suit you very well. I really do. And please ask more questions. I'll do anything I can to help, whether you're with us or not. Nate, hi, Mike and team with a non-tech background. That's okay. You've been in many sectors: education, agriculture, media, and a biology degree. Any advice on which business sector to focus on? What do you love, Nate? What do you love? I went to school for 7 years, learned how to practice internal medicine. Nurse practitioner, had my own internal medicine practice. And I love tech, so I went into tech. Now, you'd think the first thing that I actually did was healthcare architecture, but it wasn't. I designed systems for internet service providers. Then after that, I designed systems for banks. And then after that, I went in the healthcare sector, which was where my career did good. So Nate, what is it that you love? What would you love? I would say learn that. Because remember, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Any decisions you make today can get you there. Now, if you've been an educator for the last 20 years, you'll be at an advantage doing things for state and higher education, in which typically companies have a business division for that, and you can architect solutions like that. But you got to also look at the supply and demand. So where is the real demand for technology professionals? Education to a degree, but they don't have the biggest budgets in the world. Agriculture typically does not have the biggest budgets in the world. So I'd probably tend to avoid that if I was looking for the most opportunity. Media has some opportunity. Pharmaceuticals and life sciences have some opportunity, which is more biology related. Banking typically has the highest pay of any organization that's out there. People that focus on the financial industry, because seconds of downtime can literally mean millions of dollars in certain cases. So they're willing to pay a premium for people that can truly design high availability systems. But Nate, they're all good. What do you love? Nate, you tell me what you love. Tell me what your favorite thing is, and I'll give you some options. Kali Prasad, will you be able to architect payment gateway applications, Argo finance applications, if you join our program? If so, which is best for me? You are a DevOps SRE engineer predominantly working for AWS. Kali Prasad, so I want to be clear. We are not application architects, we are cloud architects. And let me explain the difference. If you take our program, you will know how to design all of, say, a global bank's systems. Now, that global bank will have high-frequency trading applications. They will have payment gateways. They will have consumer applications, front-end applications, back-end applications. They will have high security needs, critical networking needs, critical availability needs, critical performance needs. And in our program, you're going to learn how to design it all. But if we focused on how to do a payment gateway application and made it that narrow of a focus, you'd never get a great architect job because you'd basically be focused on applications. So you will learn how to do the end-to-end system design. So Callie, I've had to do these kind of things. So you give me an architecture for a bank. I am now an architect. So the first thing I'm going to do as an architect designing my billion-dollar architecture for a bank or my $200 million architecture is going to be my architect team. I'm going to have an application architect that's going to focus on the application design, which is what you just asked me. I am going to have a security architect or more focused on the security design. I am going to have a big data architect focus on the data design, but I will also bring in a data scientist because I'm going to need somebody that's a little more technical. I will bring in some cloud engineers if I'm smart. I will bring in some DevOps engineers because they're going to have much more technology experience than we architects are going to have, so I'm going to want their input. I'm going to bring in some security engineers to help with the security engineering. Now, I'm also going to have to deal with identity and access management systems, and guess what? That's not the realm of the security architect. That's the realm of the IAM architect, and I'm going to bring them in. I'm probably going to bring in a unified communications architect for there. So you're going to learn how to do it all with us, but the cloud architect is very like the enterprise architect. Will we design things like banking applications all the time? But we are not an application architect program. We are a cloud architect. So that kind of nitty-gritty things that you're asking me to do would be what an application architect would do. Now, mind you, the people that architect the entire system will earn far more than the people that are just focused on the applications. So we will give you a higher paying skill than being the person that designs the application. Our skills are much higher paid because we're not just concerned about the application. We're concerned with everything: the people, the processes, the technology, the finance, the way the business operates, the security, the data, the network, all of it, all of it, all of it. And that puts us closer to the C-suite and a little further away from the technology. So I hope I answered your question. If not, please let me know. Any last questions? Otherwise, it's time for me to get back to work. And I am totally fine with that. Well, it seems people are shy today. Totally fine for people to be shy today. And with that, Nate, what did you say? Agree on education. You'll have to rewatch the live feed because you had to go through customs back from abroad mid-answer. Nate, I totally understand that. I love that. You're actually watching our YouTube videos while you're flying back and going through customs. Sounds fun. Nate, I hope you went somewhere fun. My personal favorite places to go to are Dubai, Jamaica, and Greece, but I go to all kinds of places all the time. So they're all kinds of great. So take care, everyone. It was wonderful to spend the afternoon with you. Please take advantage of the 50% off special sale for Memorial Day. The coupon code is Memorial Day 2024. I'll see you all. I'll come back tomorrow. And it looks like another question is coming in. Thanks so much. Can I suggest a program which is best for you out of the three? You're confused. You know some ML too. I don't know what you mean, Callie, of which program. If you're referring to our training program, if you want to be a cloud architect, the program is the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. And there really is only one of those programs. Now there are payment options, meaning one payment versus 3 months or 6 months. So I think they'll be there. Now, we do have a live and a non-live and an elite version. So I will tell you the difference, Kelly. If your goal is just to become a cloud architect, for 90% of the people, I would recommend the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. It is everything you need to become a cloud architect. The live class, whenever possible, is your best option. So the non-live is for those that won't attend class and want to watch recordings of class. The live ones are you attend class, you can design systems, present them, sell them in class, just like you do in the real world. And the elite program, which is there, is an incredible program. It's honestly the culmination of my entire life's work. It covers the cloud architect program. It covers the enterprise architect program, because that would mean our students get earn more. It covers interviewing. It's got a special interview training program, and it includes our tech leadership program. And why do we include the tech leadership program? I'll tell you why we interviewed our tech leadership program, because the people that earn the most in tech have the most business acumen. So in that elite program, we have extra business classes that were designed from, say, the business school professors, the PhD people that teach in MBA programs. We've got additional executive education training, additional leadership training, additional sales training. And it's honestly, it's the greatest thing we've ever created. And it took me 30 years and $300,000 of education, plus 10 other people to put that architect program together. I'm highly proud of it. But I would say for 99% of the people, the Cloud Architect Career Development Program Live is the right one. Tyrone, if you want to drop the link to that and put it into the chat box for Kali. And I'm sure you will do very well with that if you follow our training. While Tyrone finds a way to find that link to place that into the chat box, any other questions for me? Okay, well, take care, everyone. And I look forward to some of those of you like Prasad that said you'll enroll. I look forward to meeting you in class. We're covering lots of security right now. It is a really great time to join. We're on a very focused security thing. So take care, everyone. It was wonderful to see you. I'll come back tomorrow afternoon if I have some time from 2 to 4 to answer more questions. And on Thursday, make sure you join David Lithicum and me. Talk about AI architecture, how to become an AI architect, all the skills of the AI architect as well. Love these architecture careers. I've had them for a couple decades now. And don't miss this 50% off Memorial Day sale. Take care, everyone.